Jambo, namaste, konnichiwa, bonjour, and greetings. What an amazing way to celebrate Women's History Month and share this platform with so many inspiring speakers. The morning has been fantastic. And of course, to all of you in the audience that are going to be participating and engaging and networking. It's been a year gone by since the world went into shutdown. From a personal experience, I can tell you that this has been a bumpy ride. It's been a bumpy safari for me. I've seen so many individuals lose their jobs, and at the same time, I've seen new opportunities created as organizations are finding new ways to conduct their business. And I really hope flexible hours, work hours, and work from anywhere will become the new norm. I saw this morning the poll from Lisa on what you'd like to get out of today. And most of you, the highest vote so far at 40%, said that you'd like to network as part of this event, and that's why you have attended it. So we'd like to start off with a poll and hear from you. On the side, you'll see 3 questions on the poll. I hope you all can see that. Yep, I can see some that are starting to answer. And the 3 questions in there, the first one is, do you feel there is a cybersecurity skill shortage? Yes or no? And then the second question in the poll, I'd like to hear how you've joined the cybersecurity industry, if you're already part of this industry. And the first is, I've always wanted to be in cybersecurity from a very young age, and cybersecurity was my dream job. Or is it, I have a completely different background and I fell into cybersecurity by accident? Or is it my friends and family were in this industry and that's why it's a natural fit for me? Or D, is it other? And then the last question in the poll, as you see on the side, on the right-hand side, is which of these 3 words have you heard the most so far this year in 2021? Is it vaccine, burnout, or reopening? Now, depending on which one, for the last question of the 3 words, depending on which one has the most votes, vaccine, burnout, or reopening, we have a challenge for you as the audience and for us as speakers. The goal for us is to make sure we do not use that word throughout our presentation. So a little bit of a challenge for us and a challenge for you in the audience is, if we do, type it in the chat, and the first person that writes in the chat will receive something from us. And any submissions after that will be considered as a duplicate. And creativity, by the way, is allowed. So we can't say the word, but we can, I'm looking at the one, but we can say VACCINE, because I see that one has the highest vote so far. So panelists, are you ready?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm so ready.
Great. Okay, panelists are ready for the challenge. Audience, are you ready for the challenge? Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for your participation on the poll and joining our talk today. There is no cybersecurity skills shortage. In terms of agendas, we'll move to the agenda. We're going to make this fun and interactive. There are prizes for participation. We also have Kahoot, so please see the chat for details and log on to Kahoot, or keep your Kahoot app ready as we will share the PIN code shortly. One of the prizes is a fitness backpack and a water bottle, and a grand prize from Lululemon, which is a Lululemon gear, and with a signed copy of The Rise of the Cyber Women Volume 2. So we'll explain as we go along when you'll be able to get these prizes, and the prizes are for your participation. We want to make this interactive.
Yeah, and the Lululemon gear, I'm sorry I don't have a picture, but it's going to be leggings, a sweater, and a top, so it's a good one.
That's awesome. Fantastic. And then the next piece in the agenda, we'll explain using the golden circle concept, which is why, how, and what. If you're not familiar with this concept, there's a great TED Talk. Simon Sinek explains it very well, and Apple has been very successful. And it's all starting about why this topic, there is no cybersecurity skill shortage, is important as we share our journey. We will then share some stories. Everyone loves storytelling. I know, I did when I was growing up, and I still love storytelling. And as we share our stories, you'll hear how we're breaking barriers. We'll end with what you can do through a few tips as we challenge the status quo. Okay, so I see everyone's ready. And the next piece in our slide is the participation. So please, can you type your name, where you're from, a fun fact about you, and optional, any barrier that you faced. So for example, my name's Aarti. I live in Vancouver. I ride a motorcycle. And when I expressed, for me, my barrier, when I expressed interest in leadership positions pre-COVID, for a very long time, I was informed that I would need to move to headquarters. I'd have to pack up and, either go to Boston or go to California and move to get into leadership. So I want to see some participation in the audience. Share your name. I want to see where everyone's from. Okay, while everyone's getting in there, that's awesome. I love that. New Jersey, Portland, that's awesome. This is fantastic. Keep this going. California, but live in Seattle. That is fantastic. Okay, so let's get started with introductions. As you can see, Selina, Farah, and myself. I'll get started in the next slide with my journey. I'm born and raised in Kenya, so you can see the flag of Kenya. And in 1997, I asked my dad that I want to go abroad to study. I was the youngest and the only daughter. I ended up taking financial economics in UK. 20 years ago, when I graduated, if you asked me what I wanted to be, I'd have said a stockbroker. And when I graduated, I started working first initially for an educational charity, bringing in sponsorship for that organization. In 2004, that was the next phase of my chapter. My husband and I, we packed up and we moved to Canada. And as a new immigrant, I just wanted a job. For those of you who've been new immigrants or new to the country, I'm sure you can relate to this. It wasn't easy. Rejection, rejection, rejection was all I faced. Finally, there was that response that I got. And when I did have an interview, I was given that you don't have that Canadian experience. I knew I needed to do something different. So I started to network, and I met a connection who introduced me to a recruitment agency. From there, I met the recruitment consultant, and she was originally from UK. And so we connected very well. If you heard some of the other presentations earlier today, they talked a little bit about connection. And she said, I have this position that we're hiring for, but it's an entry-level position. And the industry was cybersecurity. I didn't know anything about cybersecurity other than I remember at university where my square floppy disk back in 2001 got corrupted. And that's all I had known about this industry. So since 2004, I've been working in cybersecurity. Today, I work for a company called BugCrowd. And I should have mentioned earlier, everything I'm sharing today are my personal viewpoints. 3 years ago, I began working on my journey to get onto corporate boards. I was introduced to an executive, and he told me, you need more experience. I was frustrated, but I was also more curious. I was curious what he meant by more experience, because I'm like, I already have 20 years in the industry. And I started reaching out, researching, and I found out there was a lack of diversity on many company boards. I spoke to other women in my network and found there was a similar barrier that we all had. And this led me to start up an organization called Stand Up to Lead to increase diversity on boards and I partnered up with Women Get On Boards to deliver these workshops. The first year was hard. The second year, we had sold out seats. It was fantastic. It was a great journey. The next phase of my journey was to increase more women in cybersecurity. And research has consistently shown that diversity and inclusive workplaces experience higher engagement, performance, and results. In our industry, we have 20% women. I knew I needed to do something within that organization, and that's what led me to start up SHE, which is Sharing Her Empowerment, to influence a change within the organization through a collective voice. I learned about the power of a collective voice and how it can influence a change. You'd be surprised, even though 20% of voices can influence a change. This started off by bringing awareness within that organization to all employees. It then led to being invited to present at boards. I didn't know where this was going to go. And so it was not only to leaders and employees, but also to boards, and boards who were also venture capitalists who then said, hey, present this to the rest of the group of companies we support. It's been a phenomenal journey with SHE. And then last year, for the first time ever, Canada, IT World, and WISECRA worked on an initiative, which is to have awards to recognize women in cybersecurity who are paving the path for future generations. There were so many nominations, and I was really excited to receive the Top 20 Women in Cybersecurity Award. And for me, it isn't about getting the spotlight. It was inspiring others to join us and make a difference. I will tell you for sure, this award helped me be a voice, helps me make a change and continue to pay it forward. And then lastly, last year was a year of reflection with the pandemic. We were all at home. And my mission has always been to break down these barriers that I've faced, but not just me, every one of us here in the room have faced. To break down these barriers and boundaries to achieve equality for underrepresented groups in STEM and in leadership. I absolutely hated writing, but I knew I needed to learn, so that I volunteered a project led by Lisa Ventura and was featured in this book. I think my video is going off, but I was featured in this book. And we're working with 17 other inspiring women who shared their story, in the rise of the cybersecurity, rise of the cyber women. There's volume 1 and there's volume 2. And the idea here, as mentioned, is a year of reflection. For me, writing this, it helped me remove that inner voice. It helped me remove that inner voice in me that was fearful of what others would say. I was worried, my journey, and what others would think about this. And then lastly, if you see my post on LinkedIn titled Fulka Roti, you'll know that I enjoy cooking. In that video, while I'm showing how to make roti, I explain the soft skills that I've learned, and I'm applying it to work. I'm applying it into interviews on how and what you can do and how you can apply making roti and the skills that you use into the workplace. So what kind of skills are you gaining from this? Well, multitasking, efficiency, accuracy. So one thing, as you see in my journey, together as a collective voice, through SHE, through this book, through Stand Out to Lead, through this conference, together we're speaking up for equality. And my hope is to inspire everyone that no matter what you're faced with, stay authentic, speak up for equality, and don't be afraid of the outcome. So that's my journey. Selina is going to share her journey.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Selina Lam, and I am currently a security operations analyst at Lululemon. So I'm from Canada and currently living in Vancouver, BC. And I've had the luxury of being able to move across like Western Canada and live in a few different places, which has been great. And the reason really for moving around so much is, I don't know, I've seen some amazing people from like different parts of the world, but in North America, across every single small town, there's always going to be one Chinese restaurant. And there's like no exceptions to that. So we were the family, my family was the family that was owning these little restaurants in really small towns across Western Canada. So I've settled in Vancouver and I've been here for over 10 years and I absolutely love it. Something interesting about me is I love to snowboard. So it's really, I feel really lucky living in Vancouver where I can easily go to the mountains to be able to continue my passion for that. So I did not have a traditional career path into cybersecurity. I graduated with a degree in business and focusing on HR and finance with the thinking like one day I'm going to come out and own my own business. So I've had multiple careers or multiple jobs in finance, working in banking before I pivoted over to actually HR for a heavy machinery company located in Vancouver. And I was with them for so many years. And, you know, I learned a great deal within HR, having to deal with different people, structuring, and just working with the workforce, and I think that they're like the most critical piece to any organization. Now, I really examined my career trajectory within that period. And I started to think, you know, maybe HR isn't the career path that I had always envisioned it to be. And I started actually becoming really curious about IT. And I want to emphasize, like, it's very general IT, and I didn't really know what about it that I was really interested in. But while I was in HR, I was on a couple of different transformation projects, and they had such a big IT component to it, where we're increasing efficiencies, rolling out different technologies, and that really got me engaged. So then I thought, okay, I don't have a background in IT, and apart from using my computer every day, like, I don't really know what's going on. So I was like, okay, what can I actually do? And I started having so many conversations with people within the field to ask them, hey, what do you actually do? Like, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? And to explore if I could see myself in those roles. And one of the individuals I had actually had this chat with was the CISO at that time in my company. And she sat me down and not only told me about what security did in the organization, but she also offered me the opportunity to job shadow her team. Now, I was also very fortunate to have a supporting HR manager at the time that agreed to say, yes, like, if you are interested in looking and working in cybersecurity, I fully support you to job shadow and work and do projects with the cybersecurity team. Now, it was beneficial for both. I got to see what they did, and they definitely got some free work out of me. I didn't only just shadow the cybersecurity team, but also other teams that I was interested in, such as digital analytics, which was the other focus point. But after working in cybersecurity, I really realized how dynamic, how interesting it could be. And I really saw myself working in this field where it was like so dynamic, and just the thought of being able to catch the adversaries in your network and stop them, protect the information, was really the selling point for me. So when an opportunity actually opened up on the security team as a junior analyst, I jumped on, and I've now been in cybersecurity for the past 3 years, and I love it. Like, there's no other words for it. I'm so grateful that I am in such an amazing field with so many inspirational individuals, and being able to speak and tell everybody about my journey. So you'll also see a picture of my puppy here. He is honestly the sunshine of my life. He keeps me sane. And whenever I get really stressed, I just look over and he helps me realize that, you know, things aren't so bad. So that's another little tidbit about my life. But love, another thing that I really am passionate about is helping others find a career in security as well. So I've had the luxury of having so many opportunities, and I want to be able to give back. And so I volunteer with a group known as She Leads Tech, which is a part of ISACA, or One in Tech. And that is our main focus, is to empower women in IT security roles, focusing in cybersecurity, and making sure that they have the support that they need to get into those leadership roles. I'm a firm believer in that you can't be what you can't see. So I want to see more people, more females in those leadership roles so that they can be the role models for future generations. I'm going to pass it over now to Farah.
Thank you, Selina. Hi, everyone. I'm Farah. I am from Mumbai, India. And last year in 2020, I graduated. I finished my bachelor's in mass media with a focus in journalism. I wanted to be a journalist for as long as I can remember. But in the second year of my degree, I realized that this was something maybe not for me and it wasn't challenging enough for me. So I decided to enter IT and specifically cybersecurity. I took a very basic course about ethical hacking. It wasn't anything specific, but it really got me very intrigued into the entire industry. And then I decided that I wanted to pursue web application pen testing further. And in the pandemic, actually before the pandemic, I did 2 internships. And then in the pandemic, I was looking for a job, but I couldn't find one because everywhere I would go, they would look at my educational background and they usually wanted someone with who had a traditional STEM degree or a degree in CS or something like that. So I couldn't find a job and I was having a really hard time. So I started doing some bug bounty because I decided that it would be better to earn some side cash while I'm looking for a job. So I did that and I started posting regular updates about my bug bounty journey on LinkedIn. And a lot of people seemed to be really interested in that. And they also had a lot of questions about how they could get into it. So to pick up the camera because that was something I always wanted to do, be in media. I picked up the camera, I started my YouTube channel, and I started documenting my bug bounty journey. And I started documenting what I'm learning and also started teaching others all of that. And it kind of really blew up and it got me a lot of exposure. And I'm currently working at Buckrout as an application security engineer. So my boss, he actually saw my YouTube channel and thought that the skills that I had documented over there and I had showcased over there, they were perfect for the job that he was looking for. And they also had a requirement in India, so it was perfect. So when they were looking at my YouTube channel, they couldn't really see my educational background or they couldn't really see my degree. So that was something really awesome. And I'm really grateful for everything. So yeah, that's all about me.
So these are some of the common barriers, and that's where I asked you earlier on, is what are the common barriers you experience? And I know I experience location as a barrier. Many of you have had different, I keep hearing from so many individuals, it's either you don't have relevant experience or technical skills and things like that. These are just some examples, and I'm sure there's a lot more other examples of what barriers that you face. And it was great to see in the poll just here is how many of you have joined this industry and fell into cybersecurity by accident. 77.8%. There's a lot, absolutely. So with that, it's time for Kahoot. So Selina is going to get this started. Get your app ready, log in.
Okay, so yes, so you can join Kahoot either by scanning this here or going to kahoot.it. And I'm going to give you the game pin now. So the game pin is 26096. So this is where our top scorer will be able to win that full Lululemon outfit. Okay, we'll give it a few more seconds because we have quite a number of individuals that are in this session. I'm just gonna here. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna give it another minute here before getting started.
That's awesome. Seeing many join, that's fantastic. There is prizes to be won.
Yep. Okay, okay, last 10 seconds here. Any last minute joiners? Okay, so as we look, make sure to pay attention to the screen and also the device you're on. The questions will be on the screen, your screen. Okay, getting started now. Oh, okay, start. Okay, first question. How many people would be needed to fill the cybersecurity skills shortage? Pick a symbol that correlates with the one on the screen. 4 million was the right answer. Okay. Scoreboard, we got RD on the top. Okay, but it's anyone's game. Who works at Bug Crowd? Aarti and Farah are the right answers. Yes, I work at Lululemon. Oh, okay. Some changes in the board here. Next question. Which of these is not a common barrier to entering cybersecurity field? Yes, the first one. There's not enough women in the field and we're trying to promote, get more women. Okay. Oh, new leader here, MYL. Okay, last question. What field was Selina working in before security? HR, yes. Okay, who is the winner here? Let's see. Oh, some honorable mentions. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Kristen B, yay! Congratulations, Kristen. So just send me a private message and we'll coordinate your prize. Okay. Awesome. Thank you everyone for participating. Okay. Now back to our presentation. So I'm going to pass it back to Aarti.
Well, congratulations to all of you for participating and to the winner. As we mentioned, there is a prize for that, once we get your email address, when you private message Selina your email address, and then we'll work on the logistics via email. There is still another grand prize to be won at the end of this session, so please stay with us. So let's try and understand the problem today. The article from ISC2 shared that there are 2.8 million professionals in cybersecurity in 2019, at the end of 2019. And we would need another 4 million to fill the gap. How are we going to find more? Is the problem that there is a shortage in cybersecurity professionals, or is the challenge we can't find the right talent? To solve the 4 million shortage in cyber skills, the challenge isn't that we don't have enough cybersecurity professionals. The challenge is that we're limiting ourselves and we need to look beyond the traditional way of hiring. Increasing diversity and breaking down these barriers will solve the problem. So how are we going to break down these barriers? according to Pew Research in 2019, there were 29.5 million women with a bachelor's degree versus 29.3 million men. And this is the stats from the research. With such a large pool of talent, why is it so difficult to find 4 million? Why do we limit applicants only if they have a certain degree? Last year, I ran a fireside chat with 3 women from Twitch, HP, and NortonLifeLock, and all 4 of us fell into cybersecurity by accident. Your poll just today from all the participants, a high percentage of you fell into this by accident. Yet we still constantly hear individuals going through interviews saying you don't have enough technical skills, you don't have this particular certification. Even in that panel last year, we had project management, we had engineering, accounting, economics. You hear Selina, HR, you hear Farah, media. But we still hear these barriers that exist today. And some of you mentioned that, some of you mentioned I'd love to hear what the other barriers that you faced. And as mentioned, you've seen a story from Selina, how she moved from HR to cybersecurity. She leveraged her soft skills, and you'll get to hear her story shortly, as she's going to cover this a little bit more in detail. And she'll explain how she's leveraged her soft skills and her mentor to break down these barriers that many of us face. And then you'll also hear shortly from Farah, as she talked a little bit in the beginning, how she built her brand leveraging her degree in media and how she landed a job in cybersecurity. She will share some amazing tips. She has a huge following, as I know one of you asked for the link to her YouTube channel. It's amazing some of the tips she provides and how she's built her brand. And both Selina and Farah have proved to the industry, to hiring managers, to many organizations, that you do not need a technical degree to join cybersecurity industry. And my hope is that you speak up, share their stories, and challenge the status quo if you encounter any of these barriers. If the adversary does not have any barriers, why should we? So I'm going to hand us over to Selina as she continues and gives you tips on how to close the gap and how she's been breaking barriers.
Thank you, Aarti. Well, I'm going to start off with just this quote that you see at the very top here. When I was offered a job going from HR to cybersecurity, I was then questioning my CISO at the time, like, are you sure you want to give me this job? I have no technical background, and this is what she told me. Technical skills can be taught and learned. I'm looking for someone who is curious and has a good attitude. Now, after a few years of working in this industry and drinking from a technical fire hose, I'm honestly proof that anyone can learn the technical skills required of a cybersecurity professional. All the data is out there. Google is your best friend. But in order to really succeed in the field, you need to have a passion for it, and of course, some soft skills. These are the soft skills that I would highly encourage any of the hiring managers to look at in individuals that you think would be a good fit. And aside from the technical, these are the skills that I think are needed to really succeed in this field. The first is adaptability. For individuals that are already working in this field, I don't need to tell you how dynamic this field is and how it constantly keeps you on your toes. You can't be stuck in your ways and consistently be okay with not changing. You have to, and you have to change your way of thinking and your way of doing things. Hackers are constantly doing it, and so should we. Interpersonal and communication. Believe it or not, everybody is in sales. It's sales and persuasion. We all do it, whether we know it or not. It's not always a product, but it's an idea or an ask to get someone to do something or not do something. We're doing it all the time. Social engineering works so well because we still fall for it And the difference between a good and okay hacker is how well they can persuade you to give them your personal information, click on emails, download attachments, etc. Those that are really, really good are relatable. They can clearly articulate why you need to do what they say. And since that's true, cybersecurity professionals on the ethical side have to be even better at persuading people to get them to listen so that they're not falling for the attackers. You need to get people to pick security over convenience and explicitly tell them why. So look for the people who are a part of your general population that can really relate to your crowd. Your marketing and finance people aren't going to understand the technical jargon that you use day in and day out in security. You need to find people who can communicate in a way that your general population can understand. There's going to be many times where people won't follow you because it's the way that you communicate and try to persuade them. So because for myself, coming from a non-technical background, I always try to use non-technical language when I'm explaining things. And I can't tell you how many times users have appreciated my explanations. The attackers are doing this, so should your cybersecurity team. The last is being curious. Find individuals that are eager to learn or to know something. People who are curious are going to be the ones that are observant and your analytical thinkers, your problem solvers. They want to strip down the issue and get down to the why. These are going to be the people who won't accept the answer, this is how we've always done it, because they want to improve. And you need that in security. Now, for the individuals that are looking to get into a career in cybersecurity, I would highly recommend mentorship. I would not have been able to get the opportunities I've been so fortunate to have if it had not been for my many mentors. They help you build a foundation for your career, provide information and knowledge, and so much more. For the mentors out there, if you could tell your younger self something to help you advance your career and make your life easier, would you not? If your answer was no, you're not thinking hard enough. Mentorship is honestly like that, but instead of telling your younger self, you're helping somebody else by giving them and telling them your own experiences to help them develop. Mentors help you, again, build the foundation for your career. They have such a great wealth of knowledge and can provide constructive criticism to help you grow. And it's a mutually beneficial arrangement as mentees can help mentors build their leadership skills, learn new perspective, and it's so rewarding just to help somebody else succeed. So here are some stats that I have where individuals have taken a survey, and this is actually from BugCrowd, of some of the reasons why people haven't joined a mentorship program. And the top reason is, I wasn't aware that a program existed. Well, there's so many mentorship programs out there. For security people, join your local ISACA chapter, and there's a mentorship program there. It doesn't always have to be a formal program either. If there's someone that you look up to, ask them if they're willing to give you an hour or so of their time once a month to mentor you. The worst thing that they could do is say no. But the best outcome is that you'll have a great mentor who's willing to help you succeed. And more times than not, if they say no, it's understandable. They might just be at capacity for their mentees, but they'll likely be able to steer you in the right direction of somebody else that can help you. The second reasons, the top reasons, is there isn't enough time in the day, or I'm not sure how to approach someone and what to say to them. To this, I'll say, I get it. The time of the day, we're all busy people dealing with problems and issues at work and at home. However, from personal experience, I have brought work issues to my mentor, and they've been able to help me tremendously and save me so much time and headache. And the reverse is true as well. I've been able to help my mentors with my perspective to help them deal with a problem that has helped them tremendously in terms of efficiency and impact. A lot of organizations are also doing this as well, where they offer something called reverse mentoring, where the individual with the more wealth of knowledge and experience are the mentees, or you can say, and the individuals in maybe with less experience or in more junior roles are the ones providing feedback to them. So that's something to explore as well. And just to touch upon I'm not sure how to approach someone and what to say, be authentic. If you are doing the traditional mentorship route, let your mentor know what you want to gain out of this relationship. And it doesn't always have to be clear and concrete. Be like, I'm trying to make my way in cybersecurity and I don't know where to start. They'll understand, like we have all been there. So be open, authentic, and honest, and you'll be able to build a really solid foundation and relationship. So now I'm going to pass it over to Farah to talk about creating a network and brand.
Thank you, Selina. That was amazing. So now I'm going to talk about how you can create a network and how you can create a brand and then also inspire other people to do the same. So first, let me start by answering the question that why is a personal brand so important? So the answer is pretty simple. Can we move on to the next slide? So the answer is pretty simple, that recruitment processes and HR departments, they place too much focus on educational background and experience and requirements that are basically more quantifiable in nature. But we all know that that's not the reality, because the InfoSec community is built on sharing resources and people entering the industry through completely non-traditional routes, like Selina. But a lot of these people, they don't have those fancy degrees. So when a recruiter looks at their resume, they reject it as soon as they see that the candidate doesn't have that traditional STEM background. And that's where they get stuck in the recruitment process. So building a personal brand and showcasing your skills on a wide platform, in a way, it allows you to bypass that process, because your brand becomes a way to directly display your knowledge, your skills, and your passion for learning to the potential employer without bringing in that barrier of quantifiable requirements. So this has also been my personal experience. Like I said before, my current employer, they hired me because of the content I had created on YouTube, and because that was a direct showcase of my skills. And when anyone watched that, they wouldn't think about whether I had a STEM degree from a fancy college. They would simply gain value out of that. So I got hired because my current boss felt that the skills I had were a perfect match for the job that he was hiring for. So because of the personal brand and the value that I had created through my content, I completely managed to bypass the traditional recruitment process. And lastly, of course, it goes without saying that when others see someone make it in that way, they also get inspired to create value in the community and do the same for themselves. So it's a win-win situation. So next, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can actually create a brand and inspire others. So the very first thing that you need to do is pick a platform where you want to build your network. The most popular platforms where the InfoSec community is the most active are LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also write a blog, but I highly recommend that you at least use one of these social media platforms to promote yourself and your work. And if you're comfortable with speaking and being in front of the camera, then YouTube is a really good platform to showcase your skills. But if not, then you can post regular updates about your work on Twitter and LinkedIn. So for me, I started posting updates on LinkedIn during the lockdown about how I was getting some Hall of Fames by reporting bugs to responsible disclosure programs. And then when I got my first bounty, I posted about that. And a lot of people were quite inspired by that journey, and they had a lot of questions. So I decided to create a YouTube channel because I figured that there has to be something missing if people have so many questions. So a lot of people who are following my journey on LinkedIn, they also became a part of my YouTube community. And there are many platforms available, so you should pick the one that you feel is a good match for the type of content that you want to create. And once you pick your platform, the next step is figuring out your niche. So when it comes to that, at least in the beginning, don't post stuff that's too general, because it may bring you traction from beginners, but it won't help you be remembered by employers. And that's who you are really trying to reach. So think about what you are good at and what do you bring to the table. Again, for me, it was, since I came from a non-technical background, whenever I would read technical blogs, my mind would feel all foggy and confused. And I was like, there has to be a simpler way to understand this. So I started breaking down those concepts in my head first to make myself understand them. And when I started creating content, I knew that that was what I wanted to do, because there are probably a lot of people who have that same problem, and they would also love it if someone could explain those complicated concepts to them in a much simpler way. So I only stuck to that kind of content, and it turns out that I was right, because a lot of people did appreciate those skills of being able to break down technical concepts and explain them in an understandable way. So in a way, you could say that that was my niche. So the next thing that you need to do is connect with the community and with leaders and peers in the community. So the best part about Twitter and LinkedIn is that you can connect with people in the industry. For example, if a leader in the industry posts a tweet about their new research, you can read it and you can give them your honest feedback and what was your takeaway from it. Because I think Twitter is more like a community. So people not only talk about their technical wins, but also their struggles, their failures, and sometimes like their general life updates. So try to become a part of that community. I would suggest that you don't be spammy, but you provide genuine input to those people. Because I have personally made a lot of friends and connections in the industry just through these social media platforms. The next thing you need to do is be authentic and start creating content. So something that I'd like to say over here is that try to be remembered, but at the same time be yourself. And the only way to do that is by creating value. Providing valuable contributions to something someone else has created is also okay. So when creating content, ask yourself some questions before you begin, like, what do you think you're struggling with the most? What are some things you wish you knew? What do you feel is missing? Lots of people do have the same struggles in the industry, and your blog, your video of content can really help someone, and that's when you will be remembered. So don't forget that everyone has a different background and different experiences, and this will reflect in the content that you create. Because when you bring those experiences and when you use that background to create content, it'll be in a way that no one else will be able to, because they don't have that same experience as you. And lastly, I have to say this, that it's okay to make mistakes and improve, because you should not strive for perfection. Lots of people, they get caught up in trying to come up with the perfect tweet or the perfect video. And because of that, they never actually end up putting their work up. So your brand doesn't need to be perfect from day one. We all make mistakes and no one is born with the perfect skills. So my first YouTube video, actually, it was shot on an iPhone 6 in 2020. And if I had tried to strive for the perfect video quality, I would have never been here. So go ahead and be your authentic self, and you will make mistakes, and make sure you learn along the way. So now I'm going to move on, and I'm just going to summarize the five main takeaways from today. So the first is be authentic. Like Selina mentioned earlier, while approaching your mentor, be authentic, be yourself, and that's when they'll be really be able to help you. Even in creating content, bring your most authentic self out there. And that's when people will really appreciate you and differentiate you from everyone else. Next, soft skills. Soft skills are so important. Like Selina said, you can learn the technical skills, but how do you explain it to someone who doesn't know the jargon, and how do you explain it to someone coming from a non-technical background? Your teamwork, your collaboration, your ability to communicate, that can sometimes trump the technical knowledge. Next, find a mentor or a sponsor. Like Selina said, finding a mentor who can save you from some of the mistakes that you would have made otherwise, and who can tell you what it's going to be like, and they know they've made those mistakes, they've been there. So that can really help as well. Next is build your network. use social media platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter. Use that community, be a part of that community, build your network, build connections. And lastly, this goes without saying that when you're going to be doing all these things and when you're going to be successful at them, you are inspiring a lot of other people to follow your path as well. So I think these were the five main takeaways from today. Now I'm going to hand it over to Aarti to just share a quote. Okay, before Aarti gets on, we have the grand prize for today. So for this, you have to tell us what is your biggest takeaway from today. So enter it in the chat box. What is the takeaway that you took, and what might you actually implement, something that you took from today. And we are going to pick a random number before the presentation ends, and the random number, whoever it is, will get the grand prize.
Awesome. That was wonderful, right? To just hearing all the inspiring stories and tips from Selina and Farah. You've heard our personal journey and how each one of us came from a completely different degree. Many of you also can relate to this because many of you have come from a different degree, different background, and are in cybersecurity. Highlighting a little bit on Selina's talk, she highlighted mentorship and soft skills. And Farah, where she shared how she built her personal brand and how they're both breaking boundaries. And the question back to you all, is there a cybersecurity shortage? Put it this way, if we do nothing and we continue the way we are, and if we can't open or if we don't change anything, there will be a cybersecurity shortage. But we need to change. We need to open up how we're hiring diverse backgrounds, remove these barriers to entry that you heard earlier on. And when we do that, there will be no shortage. We will have the defender's advantage. As I mentioned, the adversary does not have any barriers, so why should we? And my ask is that if any of you are trying to get into cybersecurity, or you're told you don't have technical skills or experience, or your location is an issue, challenge them. Challenge the status quo. We all need to speak up. And for those who are leaders here on this call, or have great connections with other leaders, if you're reviewing candidates as a hiring manager, I ask you to broaden your criteria. Hire based on potential and see what skills the candidates are bringing to your team. Great examples of leaders that Selina mentioned, the CISO who hired Selina, the head of the triage team who hired Farah. They're great examples of leaders who are leading with intention. We definitely need more of these. And if we move into the next slide, I'd like to share my quote. Rome wasn't built in a day. We cannot close the gap overnight, but with every one of us speaking up and doing our part, it will happen over time. But it will take each and every one of us, or it won't happen at all. And to close the gap, is in my quote, gender diversity should not be a woman's problem to solve, or an HR issue to handle, nor a legislation to be implemented or a movement to occur. I'm sure you'd all agree with me here, is it should be everybody's problem to solve. And before we open up to Q&A, let's see participation from your key takeaways. Do we have any participation yet? Oh, I see a few. Now this is going to be a challenge because I see other notes in between. Selina, pick a number.
Okay, so I'm going to pick number 5.
Okay, and if we go back, now this is going to be some math calculation here.
Okay, so I think...
Never underestimate your strength. Step out from your comfort zone and challenge. I love that. That is fantastic. How important. Building personal brand. Don't let fear and perfection. That is, I love what everyone's writing here as your key takeaways. Just be myself. Yes, Jacqueline, just be myself and start to network with others and get past my own fears. And I will tell you, even though I've been here for 20 years, I still had this little internal fear in me. And one thing that helped me remove that fear is I journaled. I participated in that project from Lisa. And I still, after the first round of my first edit, I was still sugarcoating it. I still had a little bit of fear in me. And after reading stories from all the other writers or authors in that book, I'm like, why am I still trying to sugarcoat my story? And that's what helped me remove that fear. So there are different ways: journaling, connecting with the network, mentorship to remove that fear. Believe in yourself. Okay, so we've got 3 minutes left. Oh, actually, who's the winner? Number 5, Selina.
It's going to be Nishi. Anyone and everyone with passion to learn can enter cybersecurity. Just be your authentic self and fearless.
Congratulations, Nishi. If you can send a private message with your email address to Selina right now, through email, we're going to gather your mailing address so that we can ship the item and all the details and things like that. So if you can quickly email or private message Selina right now so that we can send this over to you. So now we're open to questions. Any questions from the audience? See, thank you. Congrats. I know there were questions along the way that we saw, tried to answer some of them. I guess maybe there was another question on fear. Farah, did you have any fear when you made your first video?
Honestly, I don't think I had a fear when I made my first video because I was like, nobody knows me and nobody is going to watch it. I'm just going to make the video. I didn't realize that it would blow up. So no, I didn't have any fear, but I do have some fears now putting out a piece of content. Like, I do have a little bit of inhibitions, but I think if you have a good support system around you, if you have at least 1 or 2 people that you trust who you can share something, like if you're scared about sharing something, you can share with them beforehand and they can review it and let you know if it's good. I think that kind of helps me.
Yeah. And if you think about why is Farah doing this? And her purpose is to educate and to inspire. So it's amazing just to see Selina and Farah and why they're doing this and joining me today. It's just been such a pleasure. Okay, we've got 1 more minute. Any other questions? Maybe same question to Selina. Did you have any fear or anything?
I guess my fear was, being the individual, not knowing anything technical, sitting in a room, sometimes in meetings that are full of technical people. And I think somebody actually commented on something like that. And for that, I would say, don't be afraid to put your hand up and ask like the why, because like, why is this? Like, I don't understand this. And don't be afraid to say that. Because you know what? I wasn't the only one in the room that didn't understand. And some of these people, like they had years of experience and it went over their head as well. And for those that are starting, like people within this community, like a lot of them are very forgiving, like they're willing to help you learn. So it's better to just admit and say you don't understand something than like to go along and then you're so far down the road and you don't feel comfortable asking. But I would say, for those that are getting started, don't be afraid to put up your hand and ask for help.
And one more question before we wrap up is, how hard was it to transition from non-technical background to security? And Selina, maybe you want to continue answering that and then pass it over to Farah, and then I'll close.
So it wasn't easy. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was constantly, I was working and also learning at the same time. So my energy was constantly drained. There was a lot of self-study. I did do a lot of research. I did a lot of like courses on my own time. So yeah, it was very difficult. But what I was bringing to the table was the other business lens that my other teammates didn't have on how we solve some of the issues and how we communicate, how we engage people. So that was what I was bringing to the table. But the technical switch was hard. And I'll let Farah maybe continue sharing hers.
And to add on to what Selina you mentioned is technical skills. While you learned that, the soft skills are the ones that take even longer to learn because over practice is what it takes, to build those soft skills, right?
For sure.
Farah?
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely hard, especially in the beginning. And what Selina said, it's okay to raise your hand and ask someone. I think for me, I realized that a little late. I wish I knew that earlier on, that it's okay to just ask questions. But again, like I said, I would read those blogs and I would feel like this is so technical. So I think what I started to do was just break everything down in like so that it became more digestible for me. And since I wasn't asking a lot of people initially, I think Google was my best friend. I would Google anything and everything. I feel like I have Googled the most stupid and basic terminology that now I feel like that's so basic. Like I should have known that, but it's okay to not know. Just accept that early on rather than feeling frustrated with yourself. I guess that's something I wish I knew.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Thank you to the audience for your participation. I hope you've the winners have sent a private message to Selina. I want to thank Selina and Farah, inspiring talks and sharing their journey. They've been fantastic. Just amazing as we work together just in the last 1 week as we prepared for this talk. And I want to thank Security and all the organizers, the volunteers behind the scenes that made this conference happen. And that too, no glitches so far for our talk. So thank you to everybody. Really appreciate it. And with that, I want to end with, thank you, shukriya, merci, what other language? And I think that's all I can remember right now. But thank you to all of you for participating and joining our talk.
Thank you everyone for the amazing participation as well. Like I'm really impressed with how I was paying attention and participating.
Thank you, everyone.